It's so ironic to hear Senator Cornyn talk about something being developed behind closed doors. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that the way the Republican legislation was developed?
Incredibly so, behind closed doors. This is the way they've operated. Remember that toxic Trump tax plan was done behind closed doors, not through normal process. So to get lectured by them about this being something that they are sincerely trying to do, to me, is outrageous. Because I've seen this from the criminal justice reform legislation we passed to how immigration reform was done in the years before I came to the Senate. When they're serious about something, they'll put it through a committee or create a gang of 8 or a gang of 10. You've heard of these before. There's no desire to get something substantive done. They're pushing a bill on the floor that does not answer the demands of so many of the people out there in the streets that want to see an end to the killing of unarmed Black people. Because let me just be clear, it would not have stopped the awful practice like our bill does that got Breonna Taylor killed in her bed. It would not have stopped the awful chokehold that our bill bans that got Eric Garner killed. It would not even allow George Floyd's family to hold those officers accountable in federal court through civil rights claims. These are all things that they don't address. Our bill does. And it's just so frustrating that they're setting up a process to fail so that they can turn the page and not rise to this moment in history.
But Senator McConnell is saying, just let us put the Republican bill on the floor. You have enough votes to block them procedurally from getting the Republican bill on the floor. But he's saying, let us put the Republican bill on the floor. And then it's open to amendments. You can bring in the Booker-Harris amendment to ban chokeholds by American police officers. And then it's up to a vote in the Senate. And 51 votes, it will go into the bill. What's wrong with that approach?
Well, every major civil rights organization agrees with us. Over 130 organizations signed on to a letter that this is a plan set up to fail, because what Mitch McConnell has said he would do is in the Senate, he would make a 60-vote threshold for everything. That means we would need to get 14 senators to defect and do chokehold legislation, to defect, to end racial and religious profiling, to defect, to stop military equipment to be given to police departments. And he knows he can stop those amendments from passing one by one by one by one. And so it's not a serious offer. He set the system up to fail. And getting on this bill, letting him go through his processes, to me, would be an exercise in futility when he's already preordained the result. And so what we're asking for is just simply to allow us to come together, because there are Republicans that have already, one has already introduced legislation on qualified immunity. I'm having conversations with other ones about other things. I think that if we sat down and started working on this in the way we've done other things, we can come up with a bill that honors the moment and actually creates real accountability in American policing.
Yeah, I mean, him imposing a 60 vote, asking for an agreement for a 60 vote threshold for amendments does make amendments impossible. And it doesn't seem like that long ago, but I guess it was, Senator, when I was working in the Senate, and it took exactly 51 votes to get your amendment onto a bill. So what about this other procedural possibility? Letting the Republican bill go to the floor with a 60 vote threshold. Absolutely, you won't get any amendments onto that bill. But then it just goes into conference with the bill from the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi and the House Democrats bill. And from that, either something comes out that Democrats can vote for or it doesn't. Why not leave that negotiation to what is the conference committee that could produce a bill that both bodies could vote on?
Yeah, well, that's the point, is if it went into the Senate, we would have to vote it out. So he would have to get 60 votes in order to go to conference. And that's the absurdity of what he's proposing. First of all, you're not going to get Democrats in good faith to vote for a bill that doesn't address any of the issues that are core and purposeful to us. But you don't have to go to conference. I've watched in the Senate in the short 6 years I've been here so many what they call four corners negotiation. We did it on criminal justice reform. We had the White House at the table. We had members on the Republican and Democrat side of the Senate. We had House members at the table. We all got together and hammered out because we all desired to get something done. So this idea that you have to go to a conference to have a negotiation is just wrong. I can tell you confidently that Nadler, the head of the Congressional Black Caucus, Karen Bass, they would love to get into a room, everybody, and start to negotiate what real reform would look like. We do not need to go through these processes that Mitch McConnell is establishing to get into a room of negotiation. In fact, I don't think I can remember a time when Democrats have pleaded this much to please sit down in a room and negotiate with us. What Mitch McConnell clearly wants to do is to turn a page and be able to point a finger of blame at Democrats as opposed to accepting responsibility for what is really needed right now, which is not partisanship. It's to address a generations long problem that even King, when he stood on the March on Washington, people forget in his I Have a Dream speech, he specifically called out police brutality. From that to the Kerner report to the 21st Century Task Force on Policing, I can't tell you how many times this country has studied it, held commissions on it, done reports on it. All the things Republicans are calling for in their bill yet again. People are not marching in the street saying we want a commission. They're not marching in the streets saying we want more data. They're marching in the streets. They say they want to stop police from choking them to death. They want to stop being profiled based upon their race. They want to end no-knock warrants. They want to have transparency into police departments. And if a police officer does wrong, they want to make sure that federal authorities can prosecute them and they don't have impossible standards to reach. This is not that complicated. We can get this done if we sit together and have a real conversation about what will save Black lives in this country.